Hi, friends. I am back with another interview. I'm starting my Toronto Fringe Festival coverage with lovely folks here. I have Tharshan Raj and Mayurathan Thevathas. I hope I got your names correctly. Thank you both for joining.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you for
for having
hosting us.
us.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we chatted offline, I usually like to get folks in terms of introductions first. So we will maybe throw it to Tharshan and start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in terms of arts and anything that's relevant.
So my name is Tharshan Raj. I've been I'm in the industry for the last 10 years. I do have a YouTube channel called Basement Reels. I basically write a lot of sketches. I do stand up. I act. You may see in my commercials. I also produce movies and for the last 10 years, I've been making sketches that is very relevant to our community.
You for sharing that. And I kind of relate. My platform is something like that in terms of
Yeah.
um, sharing knowledge and also wearing different hats. So totally relatable. Have Mayo, is that the short form for your name?
It is, yeah. My full name is Mayurathan Thevathas, but I typically go by Mayo.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Mayo. I know that both of you are kind of co-working in the show that we're going to talk about for the
Mhm.
Fringe, but what about you? What different hats do you wear?
So in terms of arts, I'm predominantly a writer. That's where my strengths lie. I've done a little bit of directorial work, but mostly in the writing sphere. And this will be my first theater production, where I'm writing and directing. So pretty excited about that.
Hmm.
Uh, Day to day, I am typically not in the arts. I would love to be, but unfortunately, Uh, I just I can't, I guess, just for monetary reasons. So day to day, I'm an engineer, but this is where my passion lies.
Yeah, I also relate to that. I also
Mm.
have a different 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And again, we're creating platforms for ourselves, which I think is really great.
Mm.
And so tell me a little bit about the two of you in terms of how you met. What is this connection that kind of has flourished into collaboration? Whoever wants to
Yeah.
start.
Mayor, you want to start this? Because I can take us, I'll just do the intro. So basically, I met Mayor when I first came to Canada. So I came to Canada in 2000 from Sri Lanka.
Mhm.
And, the teacher decided to put me with him in the same class. So that's how we got introduced. You know, uh, over the years, I believe in high school, we start collaborating on a couple of projects. This is like what, 15 years ago, Mayo? You know,
Yeah, a
um,
long time.
long time ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we started collaborating. We made a bunch of short films, and over the years, we kept in touch. I live with them too, right? He's my roommate as well. So we've been, uh, and after that, he actually took me to a show for Fringe,
Mm,
and it's called The Balding. And this is like, I'm not too sure. Was this like 2018?
mhm.
Okay. And that was my first introduction to Fringe and what they do. So I think then he asked me, like, yo, we should do something for Fringe,
Right.
right? And I'm like, yes, let's do it. So, but we just didn't get a chance to do it, right? Until now. And when that opportunity presented itself, I had a concept of an idea, and I reached out to Mayo. I'm like, hey, would you like to, work on this story together and put this show on the road? And that's how we got to Pornstar Eye.
It's a very lucky coincidence because
Mhm.
Fringe is a lottery system. So
Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes, for sure.
very happy.
Yes. I think it's also again it's also about what you're going to explore in the show that I think is sort of interesting for a lot of different reasons and not just timely but in terms of different voices that we want to hear from as audiences as well. So fast forward, you're now working, the show's called Pornstar Eye, folks. So add that to your listings. So what was that process of, I have an idea, Mayo, and maybe let's start writing. did you have an idea that this, I guess it was always going to be sort of embedded in humor, and would that be sort of like the start of it?
Actually, when Darshan first came to me with this story, he's been sitting on this story for about 4 years, I think, around about Darshan.
Yeah, yeah,
Just collecting information, writing drafts. And so when he came to me with the story, we wanted to adapt it for theater,
Right.
and the starting focus was comedy. So, Darshan, do you want to talk a little bit about like
yeah,
how you came up with the idea? Because when you
yeah,
brought it to me, it was already formed.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I'm so like used to writing about like you know this is like from my personal experiences, like anytime that I introduce a topic or something that my parents are not used to it, they kind of push back. And, for example, when I dropped out of university, became such a thing that they never heard of. So what they did is they reacted so negatively to it, to that idea of me dropping out. And the community got involved too, like my uncles, my aunt. So that's been the story of me. Like, anytime I do something outside of the status quo, there's so much rejection, right? So I always wanted to like, expand on that, right? So one thing that the community is, a taboo is sex, right? And sexuality. So, we want to write on that. So I started writing this story for a screenplay for a movie, right? And, you know, for 4 years I wrote it, but it's tough to like, get it to make a movie. So
Right.
that's when this opportunity came. I just went to Mayo. I'm like, hey, like what we did here. Sure, the core idea is there, but what we did is we rewrote the whole thing. We
Mhm.
rewrote the whole thing because we want to make sure most of these experiences come from us, right?
Right.
Though the porn star is a vehicle to explore these topics, we don't want to, we're not taking from lived experiences, right? We're aware of it. So we just discarded that, like, not discarded, but we are knowingly said, okay, we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about based on our experiences. Then we put it together and we wrote the story.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
So, Mayo, how would you describe the show for folks that are, whether we're of the culture or not?
Mhm.
What would be your pitch?
Yeah, so I don't think you have to be of the culture to come watch the show.
Mhm.
It's basically taking this idea of something culturally taboo, like being a porn star in the Tamil community,
Hmm.
and exploring what it looks like when there's conflict and confrontation. So the porn star is coming home, confronting his family, and exploring those relationship dynamics between the mother and the porn star, the son, the sister and him. And actually, the reason why we called it Porn Star I is
Yes.
because the main actor, character, his name is Ari,
Hmm.
ARI, which just
Ah.
happens to be,
Mm.
yeah, the last few letters of porn star, and then we added the I. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. I was going to ask you about the title. With the I
yeah,
at the end, which I thought was very interesting too, and fun because it's playful.
yeah.
Now we know it's playful, and there's like a different layer to it too. So I
Mhm,
like this idea of exploring taboos in a way that, I mean, sex is taboo in a lot of cultures. Let's
mhm.
be honest, right? As members of BIPOC communities. So I think it's interesting that you chose to go with that topic and kind of explore all these layers. Um, did you, over the course of writing, and maybe even like I don't know if you acted it out together, but in your process, were there things that both of you were like, yeah, that totally works, versus I'm not so sure, let's explore other things.
For sure, this version that you're about to see, or that you will see in theater, is not the version we started with.
Right.
We started with basically the same premise, but a slightly different story. And
Mhm.
over time, it's morphed. Darshan, do you want to speak a little about like the morph process? And this is our
Yeah.
like fourth rewrite, so
Yeah. So when we wrote the story, we got a lot of feedback, right? It's not like, okay, we're gonna write a story and this is what we're gonna do. No, what we did is we presented those stories to individuals, within our community to see if it's relatable to them, like, in some of the scenes, right? So, we did hear feedback where it's like, what are you doing here? This is not funny, or this is not relatable. So yes. So on things that we agreed with, we did changed a couple of scenes, and slowly it's also like a learning process for us, right? Like, we'll write something, and from our perspective, it makes sense, but from someone else's perspective, it's like, I don't think, this is a good idea because I'm coming from this way, and maybe you're not doing it right. So when we get to listen to those feedback, we're like, okay, that's true. It's like a learning process for us, right? Okay, maybe we shouldn't write it like that, not to offend anyone, or like, things like that, which shaped the current script.
Mhm.
So we did rewrites. Even though we're the two main writers, we did get feedback from other individuals, especially from women, and obviously men too.
We did a bunch of mini workshops,
Yeah,
and I think one of the interesting things through this process is getting feedback from our actors and our crew.
Yes.
yeah.
Um, Everyone has a unique perspective they bring to the characters,
Mhm.
and so like the small quirks in terms of the way they say our lines, for example, can be fed back into the script, and it kind of shapes the character. So it was a fun process.
Yes, I was going to ask you about the casting because I know it's the two of you are writing, but there's obviously because you're exploring these taboo topics within a community, it makes sense to have like family members, like you described.
Mm.
Um, would you say that the cast are members of the Tamil community or and other cultures?
They are all members of the Tamil community.
Ah,
We did open our casting to everyone from the South Asian community in general. Uh, Casting was a little difficult, particularly because of the types of roles we were asking
right.
and the subject matter.
Hmm.
But we found some amazing actors, and so I'm very happy with the outcome of the casting process.
Hmm. It's interesting because I will say that it maybe even with the casting, you're also exploring these taboo topics that are going to be on stage, right? So you're
Yeah.
negotiating with your cast and I guess the people that audition for the role. Um, so what are what were some of the discussions you've had with the cast that, inform the way that you're shaping the show? Because it's, the French is sort of another way to workshop
Mhm.
the show and then see where it evolves next. Anything that the cast assisted with in terms of the tone or how maybe the comedy lands or, even the length of the show?
Yeah, I think we got some amazing feedback once we started with rehearsals,
Mhm.
and a lot of it had to do with tone shifts. As I was saying before, because each actor brings different quirks to the characters we wrote, we were able to use some of their ideas to feedback into the script. For example, XYZ character, when they're saying the dialogues, has some mannerisms that they want to keep consistent throughout the script. So
Right.
then we go back and do a review, and we'll write some additions to that character.
Mhm.
It could be lines or movements, something to keep the character more consistent. And that actually, even though we kind of preemptively gave them a base to start, a lot of it's driven by the actors, which is fantastic for us. Like, as you're acting, they get into the groove, they're doing things, they're like, they embody the character, and then it gives us something to rewrite back into the script. So
Mm.
it's a very circular process, which I don't know. I personally really enjoy. It's like the script is a living script.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say that too. So it is sort of what we call living documents in
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in like, our day job language.
Yeah.
And Tarshan, actually this question is for both of you. Over the course of working on writing and workshopping and rehearsal leading to the Fringe, what is, if anything, new that you learned about yourselves and even in addressing some of the taboo topics or the different dynamics, right?
The one thing I always learn is that you're not right all the time. You know, you're constantly learning, right? You're constantly learning different new perspectives. That's it's always been constant, right? Like I know we spoke about like how the other actors contributed to the play.
Yes.
Like we'll write something, and even on the spot, they're like, "Okay, this is not working out." Like writing on paper is different from when we're actually performing it too, right? So like, and when we're practicing, then we realize, no, this is coming out some other way. It's not funny or it's awkward or it comes out creepy even, right? So const or like I learned to like always open-minded, always open for feedback, and I'm not always right, you know.
Mhm.
And another thing I learned about myself is I like to defend some of the stuff that I write or how I feel. But even then, after like I get to hear where they're coming from, it goes away. Like, okay, I see what you say. So yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, you're not right. That's
I think
I like to underline that.
yeah, I think you're in a unique position as well because you're writing and also acting.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Right, we should tell people that you're also in the cast.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So I'm playing the role of Ari,
Mhm.
because I'm always like, I don't know what it is, but I'm always interested in telling these stories where, uh, you know, refreshing stories, right? I made so many sketches of short film in the past, so each time this is what gets me going, like a refreshing story that no one's dares to tell. And here we are, like like obviously, like from my experiences, there is some backlash like I faced in the past too, right? And knowingly, I want to do something like this, so like gets me going.
Mhm. What about you, Mayo? Anything that is maybe new learnings, whether about yourself or how you want to tackle even some of these things like you said that might be in the community a bit taboo-ish, and how, we negotiate these conversations.
yeah, I think as Ashton was saying, learning to work within the community, because all the members of our cast are from the community.
Right.
So learning to work within comfort zones on what we're able to portray through theater via our writing,
Mhm.
being mindful of the community itself and possible like repercussions. It's a very sensitive area that we're kind of stepping into,
Right.
making sure that our cast are comfortable playing their roles, and they've been fantastic. Um, so like that was a lot of uh, person and community kind of management learning.
Sure.
Also, as Darshan was saying, learning that we're not always right as the writer directors. Um, I have a new appreciation for really listening to our actors
Yes.
and our other cast members.
Mhm.
So that back and forth was really great. And as I said before, this is my first theater play.
Mhm.
So learning a lot about how theater production just works all together. Like yeah, so I'll be stage managing this play too. So there's a lot of learning there with
Mhm.
sound and lighting and uh, art displays and things like that.
That's right. I like this because, people come to arts in different ways. Not everybody goes to school for the arts.
Hmm.
I think that's important sometimes for us to note that in some of our cultures, there's an expectation that we have to have an interesting career path or an
Mhm.
expected career path, and the arts are encouraged, but maybe not for day jobs, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting of maybe this is also another layer that we hopefully can open up discussions around in after watching the show. I hope audiences kind of walk away with where a lot of us who are non-white are navigating multiple layers within not just ourselves, but within, like you said, our community, whether that be partners, family, friends, so I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out, after the first performance. What I'm getting to is also a question around, is this the first time when you premiere at the French, is this the first time that any audiences is going to see it outside from the cast in rehearsals?
Yes.
Are
So
you
Yes.
it's
sure?
our
Yes.
big world debut.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Would you think there may be an opportunity after the run? So for folks who are in Toronto and are coming to the Fringe, it's going to be running Pornstar Eyes running from July 4th to the 13th, right?
Yeah.
And would there be an opportunity after or for folks to, if there's an opportunity for feedback or, how would you, I guess, debrief is what I'm trying
Mhm.
to get at.
Yeah, like after the show, we'll be there. So we will have a talk with the audience members for sure. Like we'll have some time to talk to them, and I'll personally go out there and ask, like, what do you think about the play? Like I always do,
Right?
because their feedback is very important, right? If you're doing something wrong, we should know. Like we're not gonna say like again, right? It goes back to saying like we're not always right, right? So if they're saying, hey, this is very problematic, and if I get to hear that from like let's say more than one person, we gotta we got some serious thinking to do.
Right. And I think it's interesting that comedy is something that is kind of a universal tool that is used in different cultures to address a lot of sensitive topics, right? So, even how a joke might land to me could differ from someone else who's also from my community in Latin America, but different lived experiences too, right? So I think that is always interesting. And that's why I also love places like the Fringe, where you can be in the smallest of rooms. But even if it's like five of you in the audience or 55, you're going to have that energy as well, you as cast members and directors and writers, but also we in the audience are going to be feeding off that
Mhm.
energy. And that's one of my favorite things to say whenever I talk to anyone who works in theater, that it is, in that sense, it's also community building, if that makes
Yep.
sense,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
Yep.
Um, so I guess I kind of want to, you know, get you to sort of maybe share what your hopes are in terms of audiences, because I have been talking about audiences and how we consume the art and immerse ourselves in the arts. What are some of the hopes that you have for folks like us, whether we are BIPOC or not, in terms of engaging with your art and this piece in particular?
Mhm.
Would you like to go first?
Sure.
Let him.
I think because this is like one of our first offerings, we're really looking for feedback. So any kind of feedback engagement would be great. We're looking to continue to build on this story in particular. As I
Okay.
was saying before, it's like a living document. So as it grows, we don't know where it's going to grow to, but and also looking to build other stories in the future that possibly tackle other taboo topics within our community. It could be within other communities with consultations with other writers from those communities. So we're really looking to grow. So and at the end of the day, we also want the audience to walk away feeling happy. I think that's like a big end goal of ours. So if you watch the play, we want you to walk away happy, but thinking about this uh, cultural taboo topic as well. So we're trying to uh, bring this topic to our community and all BIPOC and other communities in a more palatable way via comedy. So if
Mhm.
you're, yeah, happy, but also thinking about this and some other smaller topics that we kind of threw into the script, it
Sure.
would leave us, yeah, very happy.
Mhm. Nice.
just to add on top of that, if we want to get some sort of deals through networks, we'll be so happy to, as always.
That's really
And,
important. Yeah,
yeah,
and I guess to your point, both of you making this point, it's like the topic of sex is just one avenue,
yeah,
that to open the discussion. And I think from one of the notes, some of the notes you've sent me is around, how navigating our identity and our sexuality within our cultures and also existing in a place like Canada where we're also in a way expected to present in different ways. I think it's going to be an interesting dialogue for sure. So I'm already saying that audiences should just come prepared and sit down and kind of, I guess, get comfortable, right? Because I think we need to be comfortable in our chairs to also be part of the story with you.
yeah.
Hmm. So are there socials in terms of, or is there a website? There's a Toronto Fringe website and folks, I'm gonna link it in the description so people know where to go. But is there a handle that people can look at for
Yes.
updates? And if you want feedback, maybe someone's too shy after
Yeah.
the show, where can they find you?
Yeah, so we actually have an Instagram handle. It's
Okay.
called the P Star underscore theater underscore play. Um, so like we've been constantly posting over there too. But if anybody wants to give us feedback, even like they can send us a DM, and we constantly check those messages too. So that's and also uh, on our personal pages we share like about the show, and if anybody wants to individually connect to any cast member, they can do that as well.
Okay. So the place to start is the
Yeah,
it, Instagram, correct?
yeah, exactly. So obviously we have the website like you told us, but on top of that, the Instagram handle pstar underscore theater play theater underscore play. That's our
I'll be
handle
sure
there.
to tag you because I'll also do a mini promo. As
Yeah,
you know, we
Oh,
gotta wear all the hats, right? We gotta do
yeah,
our own
yeah.
socials, so we'll tag each other and collaborate, and
yeah,
and that way people know also through, I guess, your tags who's available and
mhm,
who your cast members are. I already found you, so it's easy to find
yeah.
on Instagram in terms of the handles. So. Anything else that you wanted to highlight about the show that I haven't asked about, or some maybe, parting words?
Yeah, like, I like to say that uh, this will be for sure a one of a kind show. Over the summer I did went and see a couple of plays, even Communions when it came to Soul Paper Theater, I went to see it.
Mhm.
They all have like different voices, so this is definitely a voice of a South Asian, and also and the stories what I feel like it has a universal theme that would connect to everybody, not just one community, but everybody outside of the community too. And it will be something different. It will be something very funny. I believe that people will enjoy.
Excellent. Thank you. Mayor?
I would just want to echo what Darshan said. Like, I think this is a universal topic that we can all talk about. It's not just about sexuality, but it's also about family relations. It's about like as a BIPOC member navigating the world, like navigating expectations. It's also about balancing like your life goals and aspirations with just like societal outcomes and expectations as well. So
Yes.
there's a lot of small like threads that you can pick up on. So
Excellent. And again, all of these things that we're always thinking and struggling with every day
yeah,
as human beings, right?
yeah.
Just existing in our bodies and ourselves. Excellent. Thank you both so much for your time. This is just a teaser, folks, so you're gonna have to head down to what's the venue for the show? The
So
theater?
yep, it's happening at the Young Center. Our specialty is at RBC Finance Studio,
Mhm.
Soul Pepper.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be heading down July 4th to the 13th, and look out for the socials for more updates.
Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Thank you
You're
Thank
for
you so
welcome.
having
much for
us.
having us.
Such a pleasure. Thanks.